7. It's called Arctic Circle. Um, I can't remember if I did any demos like on my phone or whatever for this one. Um, I want to say I think I wrote the music or noise just on a whim. It just kind of came about just messing around while I was like recording one day. Um, and and I know obviously that I recorded multiple guitars um, with crazy, just all sorts of effects going on all at once, and so really this song came pretty quickly. It, I mean, it's meant to be an interlude of sorts, a segue, whatever you want to call it. So it's not like a proper song. It's just an interlude, and you know, wanted to do like four interludes on this album, and so this is like the second one, other than the like first track, um, and so this one I wanted specifically to have a very dead, frigid sound to it, and kind of ethereal, but really just I wanted it to sound cold because the literal meaning for this song is that the protagonist has journeyed so far north that he's made it to like an Arctic region. Um, and so that's really all there is to say about this song when it comes to the literal meaning is that he's just wading through snow completely alone, um, but like in a way that feels maybe even more alone than being in a field with a sparrow or just being on any road in general. This is just like nothing but snow and ice and um, just extreme low temperatures. Um, so anyway, the allegorical meaning, if there is one, so like when I wrote it, I'm not sure it represented any one thing or period in my life other than I just wanted to write a song or segue or poem um, about walking faith alone and in solitude and in an environment that doesn't feel very comfortable whatsoever. Um, but personally, I think this is one of those lyrics that grew in meaning, like personal meaning for me over time, um, as I was like recording it or like even kind of listening back on it and mixing and stuff like that back at the time when I was doing all the guitars and whatnot. Um, because there was a certain point um, when I guess you could say like I gave the woman um, I wanted to marry an ultimatum of sorts. I don't want to go like into like specific detail, but all I want to say is that I felt like I was kind of placed in a position that I didn't want to be in, but I was okay with it initially. Um, just kind of like grit my teeth and deal with it and all. But I and this was before my mentor passed away. It was like the fall before she passed away, and probably it was around the time that I started writing the lyrics. I read this book by Soren Kierkegaard called Fear and Trembling, um, and that book really, it was a heavy read and one of my all-time favorite books, like by far. I love that book. um, but it kind of came at this opportune time when I don't know, just that reading that book really helped. um, I don't want to say redefine what faith means, but it just put it into a language and a perspective that wasn't necessarily comfortable, but it just made more sense to me. And not just like logical sense or whatever, but it was like it hit something in here. And and because of like reading that book, I had made this ultimatum. And during that time, um, I basically cut her off altogether for, I don't know, like 3 months, I think it was, um, until like a date that I had said, and I wanted her to meet me, and we like get back on the right track or whatever. Um, and so when I was dealing with that period, like it was incredibly lonely. Stress was pretty high because like the way I viewed it was this ultimatum that I gave her was something that I made in faith. Um, like to me, it represented like stepping out of the way to let God handle things and to like make amends, so to speak, instead of like just me trying to do whatever I could to like fix things. It was me um, setting some boundaries, I think, for sure, but also like getting out of the way to just, whatever happens, happens. Let God sort this thing out, you know. She she had sent me an email during the time because it was about the only way she could get in any contact with me. And it was some like lame quote from some semi-famous actor about like essentially that like the journey is what matters and not the destination. It had to deal with something with the like um the North Star and following the North Star, and you'll never actually get there, but it's, the journey that matters. And like I was thinking about it one day, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, um, you can only go as far north following the North Star until you reach the North Pole. And from there, you're no longer going north. Once you reach the North Pole, anywhere you move from that point would actually be moving south. And so I was like, no, in a situation like this, there is a clear destination. Um, uh, you know, not to say that the journey doesn't matter, obviously, it does. Um, but there is a destination in mind. Um, so, like, he says, the protagonist says in this, there's a bride I must meet. My gut exhorts to not settle into winter's wilderness, even if toes are frostbitten. um and that's kind of like his like faith declaration, if you want to call it that, of like what he's like. Despite this winter wilderness, this cold Arctic environment, he realizes that he's looking for a bride. What that actually means, well, maybe that'll change, in due time. Um, does that mean that he's looking for a wife for himself? Literally, probably yes, but I think there's something else going on there as well. Um, and so that's that's what he's journeying towards. That's what he's searching for, and he realizes that in this little segue. And so the ending radio sequence and the noise and stuff like that is to segue into the next song, um, which is um, his rediscovering through like radio signals and all his return to civilization and finding a city. um and so like when I recorded that, just wanted it to have that symbolism there of returning to civilization, that he's made it to the North Pole or whatever. He's started heading south again on his journey, and he finds civilization. And so like the background is this DJ talking, and calls himself Stalker Steve, which is kind of inside joke with a handful of people um, from my college days. And it was like this persona that I had back then. The whole thing was just a joke, so I just recorded that, um, just to throw in a little bit of like my sarcastic humor, and just talking about like living in this like postmodern whatever world. And yeah, that was the whole point there. It was just this kind of like sarcastic, dark sort of humor, um, but with the purpose of leading back into civilization again.
Archaic Southern gospel playing, even if they tell you that you